Our last speaker for today is already working 5 years for blockchain in enterprises as manager blockchain and digital risk solutions now at Deloitte. Can I have please forward Kim Schneider? Kim. Gelijk zitten. It's great to have you here. That's interesting to hear insights. Yeah, we have to. Go a little forward, so we're not. Nice. I can see you. Now it's interesting to hear insights from people that have actually worked at the Dutch National Bank, at banks, and especially their stance towards cryptos and blockchain technology. You started, saw on your LinkedIn, as a blockchain specialist and lead of the crypto board at RaboBank.
Yes,
crypto board. Let me start with that first.
With that one, okay, that's a good one. Yes, so RaboBank was already doing a lot with blockchain for a few years, but of course also discovering possibilities with digital assets. And a lot of questions came from colleagues. So what are we doing with cryptocurrencies or crypto assets, and as well from clients. So that's the reason why we started a crypto board with specialists from legal, from risk, from compliance, to gain as well more knowledge and also to answer questions for our clients and for our colleagues. And also created guidance around crypto assets, and some of you might know this guidance, which is online as well, which is not really positive with regards to business relations, say so. So yes, it really helped the bank at least to gain more knowledge internally and be more open to the outside world about what's happening.
And from this board perspective, why are banks still having such a stance towards cryptos? What is like causing this let's say this negative sentiment?
Yeah. To be honest, I still really think the banks are hesitant and scared for the regulator. It's not really motivated by the Dutch Central Bank and AFM to start crypto services for banks, which is, I think, in my personal opinion, a bit naive, because they have like a license in place, and like all startup scale-ups can apply for that and can start their crypto exchange or be a custodian. And I think a bank can do that as well, and already has a lot in place with regards to compliance, risk, KYC. So I'm not sure why they're doing this. I think because they are afraid of professionalizing it. So if banks are offering crypto services, then, it's okay. Yeah. And I think it's okay, but yeah.
Now we talked enough about banks today. Let's focus on your current job at Deloitte. You're working on the data platforms and blockchain, also when it comes to blockchain for good and sustainability, right? A topic nowadays. What should I think about that? Are you making like data analysis to see if companies are actually are really sustainable, or what kind of projects should I think of?
Yeah, let me explain at least two different projects. One is internally. At the moment, we are planting mangrove trees in the Dutch Caribbean, to start with on Curaçao. So we already did this, and I thought, okay, why not seek the opportunity there to use blockchain for this project, because then we can be totally open and transparent on what's happening there. So this,
and you can go to Curaçao.
Yeah, that would be nice, but that's not so good for for my footprint. So so that's a bit discussable, but not been there yet. But not only to focus on that for our own internal project, but also to create, a platform and a product out of it that we can help as well other companies if they also want, to plant trees, or maybe current reforestation projects that are not that transparent, that we can help them become more transparent. And also for the balance sheet, I think it's very discussable point, the carbon credits, because they can evolve over time, and maybe a forest is not there anymore in a few years. So that's also something we are researching at the moment. Yeah, to change at least.
Yeah. Now, are all these projects being published? Are also being launched, or some projects also being by, for example, the organization that tells you, like, we have different priorities?
No, I think it's on two sides. So on the one hand, of course, we do projects like these for clients.
Yeah.
So that's always proceeding, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we also have an innovation department. It's time and hours left to do new stuff and to be really innovative.
Yeah. Why, if you're working with clients, what is usually the biggest reason why they stop projects when it comes to blockchain implementation?
Yeah, I still think this has nothing to do with the technology itself, but it's the ecosystem creation. I think the word ecosystem and collaboration was already being discussed a lot today, and that's still sometimes a hurdle. People need to change their way of working together, and that's really still an issue in my experience, that they or not want to share data with each other, or don't get to the right rules and the governance setting with each other. So that's a hurdle. But also because of a lack of knowledge in this space. So a lot of people think when they talk about blockchain that everything needs to be public. And I'm really, love blockchain because it's public. But I can imagine you can sometimes not share all the data you want. And of course, there are a lot of hybrid models to think of to also have some data private. I think a lot of people really don't know, still don't know.
Are most of the projects that you're executing, are they with public or private blockchains?
More on the hybrid private side, but I see a shift. So because in a lot, for example, in sustainability, we see a lot of different supply chains on the food side, but as well on the raw material side, that need to be more transparent, right? Also, the customer is asking for this, and also the ESG regulation is evolving here. So I see a shift in willing to share more data throughout the value chain as well. Then also being more public in that case. And what we experimented with a lot is, of course, Ethereum, but I think that's always the case because they are far. Yeah.
You mentioned like consumer ones, they want this, right? The consumers, they really want to have this overview. I'm working now with Refresco, biggest juice producer in the world. And they founded the Juicy chain as well. They put like the juices, the orange juices of Albert Heijn actually on the blockchain. Had a chat with them, and they told me, like, it's a really fun solution. Yeah. But the biggest hurdle to actually scale this, also like to the entire industry and more juices and that kind of stuff, is the fact that they don't have any proof, any research outcomes that consumers actually want this, that actually want to have this.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, to start with is not maybe the reason to do this for the consumer. I think throughout the chain itself, it's already of added value to be more transparent to each other, share data. I think there's already a big gain. And then I think it's nice to have that the consumer in the end can also see where the product is coming from or how sustainable the product is.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my opinion, people are wanting to know more about where the products are coming from. Yeah. It's like shifting towards that.
Yeah, the whole supply chain, tracking all the ingredients and that kind of stuff. Now you're working on sustainability, but also, of course, on enterprise adoption. It seems that there's a lot of enterprise activity going on with blockchain technology. Is this true? Because sometimes I also think that I'm a little in this filter bubble and just hear everybody speaking about enterprise adoption and cool things and that kind of stuff. Is it true? Or like most organizations, like the data analysis show, that are most of the companies now busy with implementations with blockchain technology?
I think it's a yes. It's more than like 5 years ago. Yeah. But I still think it's sometimes early stage. So still exploring, doing maybe a demo or a proof of concept. So really the implementing phase of the technology itself is still early days, and not every enterprise is doing it. But they see more and more the added value of the use of this technology, and most of the time can be in a combination of working together with other ecosystem members or being transparent. There are most of the time other things around it why they are shifting towards this.
And the same question that I asked to Igor, what kind of projects do you see happening most? Are they around smart contracts or making data transparent, or?
Yeah, it's more around data transparency and data sharing, I would say so. So, for example, we work now for housing associations to make sure the income verification they need to do for social housing is only with a yes or a no received. So normally they receive the total amount of what somebody's earning. They don't want to to have this information because of GDPR rules. So they only want to know if you earn less or more than 40,000 euros a year to have a social house. So that's something we're creating at the moment with zero knowledge proof component.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's more on the data sharing part, right? So that's most of the time as well a reason. Also in real estate, I see this, that people want to share data in a more efficient manner.
By tokenization or?
As well, tokenization. Spoke to a really interesting startup a few weeks ago that want to have a real estate fund, for example, built on blockchain, also to give investors that does not have a lot of money, that want to invest like 100 or 1,000 euros in a real estate, that they can also do this. So tokenization part, but also on data sharing part, being more efficient as well in that way.
Yeah. Also interesting to hear from your side. Do you see also now with all the things happening around FTX and Celsius also a more negative stance coming from enterprises, from organizations, or do they also see that there is quite a difference between the speculative trading and the technology?
A bit 50-50. So some do see this and are already maybe experimenting with crypto assets, and they are okay with it. But I think on the other hand, we also had some colleagues last week that walked by and said, "Oh my God, how are you doing? We heard this news." So they were like, I said, okay, blockchain and crypto assets can be seen as two different things, and we're still running, we're still doing projects. But yes, it's impacting our work.
Yeah.
It really is.
Now, we discussed all kinds of phases in the project when you were doing enterprise integration. You sometimes also do first field work to check if blockchain is the solution for the problem that people have. What is usually the main reason why these kind of projects then stop? Where companies say, like, it's too expensive? Is there a lack of developers? Why do most companies stop at that stage?
I think most of the time because of other priorities. What I saw from my experience at RaboBank, to really important projects, for example, on KYC and also data sharing in real estate. Really hot topics for them, but because of other priorities, then it's about the money. What doing first? On my thought, I thought you can do this parallel with what you're already doing, and then make sure you have a more efficient system to use in the later phase. And what I'm currently seeing is that it really depends on creating the ecosystem. If you don't have enough players to create the platform, for example, then indeed the costs are heavily related to one or two companies that will start this. So they really need to have a lot of added value to start for 1 or 2 years before, also the costs are recurring, and it's added value, also having more joiners in the ecosystem.
You mentioned ecosystem now a few times. Does organizations that want to implement blockchain always need an ecosystem? Or can they also just use the technology in a variety of ways for their own good?
I think so. But then most of the time the statement is, why do you need a blockchain, right? Yeah. So it is what we're currently doing at the Mangrove project, because we're doing this as Deloitte Netherlands and not with a lot of other parties. We're already seeking them, of course, to join us. But then this was, of course, also a question from internally. Why are we exploring blockchain here? Because by Deloitte.
And that's also a question from the audience.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So a little bridge to that. I mean, why the Mangrove project? Why do you need blockchain there? Maybe you can shortly first tell the audience about the project, and then about why the blockchain.
Sure. So we decided to plant mangrove trees because mangrove trees are really special trees. They absorb a lot of, and there's also not a lot of really extended knowledge around this. So one of our reasons is working together with Wageningen Universiteit to learn more on these mangrove trees and also help the local community, well, to have at least more work available and also gain more knowledge about this topic. And of course, yeah, in the end, we want to create something that we can help other clients with to, yeah, make sure they can also do something to reforestate and make the world in the sense a better place. But of course, by starting self with reducing as much as you can as a company, because it's not being used as only for the offset, you know. It's really important to mention that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a link because I think when a big company like Deloitte says, okay, we're going to plant some mangrove trees and now we're offsetting, then people think, oh my God, this is greenwashing. Why are they doing this? So that was one of my reasons to say, okay, why not using blockchain? Because then we have a transparent database. We can show the whole world what we're doing there and also share the results for other countries, other people. So that is the main objective. And of course, we want to create an ecosystem around it. So not doing it by ourselves, but working together with other companies or reuse it for other chains that are willing to work together for reforestation.
Yeah. Now, is there another question from the audience? And it's an interesting one about the supply chains. I've been, for example, a CEO of a scale-up where you build a platform making the entire supply chain of a certain industry transparent. And the question from the audience here is like, you know, supply chains are very complex systems. Most value is most of the time in the beginning and the end of the supply chain. It's true, right? Either the producer of the materials or either the seller of the product. So yeah, here at the end of it's either the beginning or the end of the supply chain. How do you get all players on board? How do you get all these, you know, players in the entire supply chain on board? Actually,
that's the hardest part of doing this. Yeah, I think you need to start somewhere. And what I'm mainly focused on currently is to seek a very short chain with at least one or two players that are willing to start creating this platform together and share more data throughout the chain. But yes, indeed, this is most of the time the hardest part because, well, like I said, they don't want to share this data. But since more regulation is coming up, I see a shift here as well, that they, well, see the added value of having more data throughout the chain and be
transparent for sustainability and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now, the upcoming year when it comes to blockchain, what kind of developments are you really excited about? What kind of new cool developments? We have any enterprise adoption, the sustainability tracking, or?
Yeah, indeed, the sustainability part, because I see a lot of traction coming there, and I'm really excited to, well, create real platforms there and make sure that, well, the world sees that companies are busy with it.
You mean companies that are using blockchain and crypto to be transparent about their impact, for example?
About their impact, more transparency in chains as well on human rights, for example. I think that's really important topic. Really hard to track, but let's discover it. And,
little too late for Qatar, but maybe for another.
Yes, yes, indeed. And on the other hand, I see still like a lot of companies that already adopted crypto and blockchain. So I'm looking forward to extend that in a professional way. I think a lot of companies are willing to create more guidance frameworks internally to be in control and grow.
Companies adopting crypto? What sense?
Maybe not really like putting Bitcoin on your balance sheet, but a lot of companies are building on certain blockchains, and if they build on a public blockchain, they also need crypto. And one example I did not mention was more on the United Nations part, the blockchain for good part. There are a lot of parties there that already receive Bitcoin and Ether, for example, in their funds as a donation, and they disperse it to other projects they fund. So I think that's really excited, and that will be, well, expanded. You know, they are also seeking to stable coins for their volatility issues and expanding this market. So
cool. Kim Schneider, Deloitte. Thank you so much for this conversation.
You're welcome.